The thing about seeing a ghost ship is that afterward, every light on the horizon becomes a question you're afraid to answer. I lean against the starboard rail, feeling the cold bite of spray on my face. The wood is slick beneath my palms, worn smooth by salt and centuries of hands like mine. It's 3 a.m, the dead watch, we call it, and the North Atlantic stretches black in every direction. Above, the rigging creaks its familiar song, lines groaning against blocks as the meridian rolls through another swell. I've been at sea for 11 years now, third mate on a container ship that runs the Antwerp to Halifax route every 42 days. The rhythm is carved into my body. 6 hours on, 6 off. The engines throb a second heartbeat. The wind tonight is steady from the northwest, cold enough that I can see my breath. I pull my watch cap lower and check the radar screen through the wheelhouse window. Green sweep, empty sea. The autopilot holds our course at 267 degrees. Captain Voss is asleep below. Martinez has the helm, hunched over his phone, the blue glow painting his face. I should tell him to stay alert, but we're 3 days from land and there's nothing out here but water and more water. My wife's voice is still in my head from the satellite call yesterday. Emma wanted to know when I'd request shore duty, start thinking about a house, maybe kids. I told her next year, same thing I said last contract. She didn't push it. She never does, but I heard the tightness in her throat, the way she said, okay, like she was swallowing something sharp. I told her I loved her. The line went quiet for a second, just the hiss of distance. Then she said it back. I turn away from the rail and walk the deck, checking lashings on the containers stacked 5 high. Everything's secure. The deck lights throw long shadows, yellow pools that make the rust streaks look like dried blood. I count my steps, 43 from the bow to the stack, 27 across. I know this ship the way I know my own apartment. Better, maybe, since I'm here more. Salt has worked into every seam of my jacket. When I'm home, Emma says I smell like brine even after 3 showers. The thermometer by the bridge door reads 2 degrees Celsius. I log it in the watch book. 0314, wind NW 15 knots, visibility 8 miles, barometer steady at 1013. My handwriting looks like my father's, the same cramped capitals. He was a fisherman, drowned off Newfoundland when I was 16. They never found the boat. I light a cigarette, my third of the watch, and let the smoke mix with the fog of my breath. The taste is bitter. Familiar. I stub it out after 4 drags, flick the butt over the side. Something catches my eye. A flicker of light far to port. I stop walking, hand still on the rail. The sea is empty. I wait, count to 30. Nothing. Probably a star breaking through the cloud layer. But the sky is overcast, solid and low. I move to the port rail, lean out. The horizon is a blurred line where black water meets black sky. I watch for another minute, then shake my head and continue my rounds. Fatigue does strange things. Last month I could have sworn I saw a whale breach off the stern, but that was later explained by a buoyant piece of wreckage we passed. The deck is slick with condensation, and I feel it through my boots, the slight give of rubber on wet steel. I check the forward hatch, sealed tight. Check the scuppers, clear. Everything in its place. I'm halfway through another circuit when I see it again. A pale smudge of light, distant, low on the water. It's not moving. I stop and stare. Could be another ship, but our AIS shows nothing within 50 miles. Could be a fishing trawl and without a transponder, but there's no reason to fish here. The bottom is 3,000 meters down. I climb the ladder to the flying bridge, feel my thighs burn on the last few rungs. My pulse is loud in my ears. From up here, I have a better angle. I scan the horizon with the binoculars, hands steady despite the roll. The light is still there, faint like a lamp behind frosted glass. It doesn't blink. Navigation lights blink. This is steady. And it's not white. There's something off about the color, a yellowish cast that makes me think of old paper or bone. I lower the binoculars and wipe the lenses on my sleeve. When I look again, the light is gone. I stand there for 5 minutes, searching. The sea is blank. Wind numbs my face. I go back down to the main deck, boots ringing on the ladder, and write nothing in the log. Martinez hasn't moved from his phone. The radar is still empty. I pour coffee from the thermos, burn my tongue, and drink it anyway. The heat spreads through my chest. I tell myself it was nothing. A reflection off the clouds, maybe, or phosphorescence in the water. I've seen stranger things. Once we passed through a bloom of jellyfish so thick the bow wave glowed green for an hour. But my shoulders won't settle. I keep moving, checking things I've already checked. The lashings, the hatch, the thermometer. I don't go near the port rail. The watch drags. At 04:30, I see the light again, and this time it's closer. Not by much, but enough that I can tell it's not a point source. It's spread out, diffuse, like it's illuminating something. I watch it for a full minute before it fades. My mouth is dry. At 05, Martinez finally notices. "You see that?" he calls from the wheelhouse door. I nod. He squints into the dark. "What is it?" I tell him I don't know, and he goes back inside. When I check the radar, there's still nothing. Whatever it is, it's not registering. That shouldn't be possible. Even a wooden boat would show up at this range. I log the sighting anyway. 0502, unidentified light bearing 280 degrees, intermittent, distance unknown. My handwriting's messier than usual. The light appears 3 more times before dawn, each time closer. Each time I try to make out detail, but there's nothing, just that sickly yellow glow hanging above the water, like fog lit from within. By 06, when the sky starts to pale in the east, I'm gripping the rail hard enough that my knuckles ache. The light hasn't appeared for 20 minutes. I tell Martinez to wake the captain. He gives me a look, half annoyed, half uneasy, but he goes below. I stay on deck, watching the place where I last saw it. The horizon is turning gray. Waves roll past, indifferent. Captain Voss comes up in his windbreaker, hair flattened on one side. "Show me," he says. I point to the bearing. There's nothing there now. He checks the radar himself, checks the AIS, checks the chart. "Could be a container," he says, "lost overboard, riding low." I don't argue. We've both seen debris fields out here, ghost cargo drifting for years, but containers don't glow. He tells me to get some sleep, and I go below to my cabin. It's narrow, just wide enough to lie down with my arms at my sides. I kick off my boots and stretch out on the bunk, still in my jacket. The mattress is thin, and I can feel the engine vibration through the frame. I close my eyes. Emma's face appears in the dark behind my lids, her voice asking when I'll come home. I tell her next year. She doesn't believe me. I don't sleep. I lie there listening to the hull groan, to the rhythm of the bow cutting water, to the pipes ticking behind the wall. After an hour, I get up and go to the galley. The cook has left coffee on the warmer, thick and bitter. I drink 2 cups standing at the counter. Jenkins, the second engineer, is there eating toast, and he asks if I'm all right. I tell him I'm fine. He doesn't look convinced, but he doesn't push it. I take my mug back to my cabin and sit on the edge of the bunk, hands wrapped around the ceramic, feeling the heat seep into my palms. At noon, I go back on deck. The sky is still overcast, a low ceiling of gray that presses down on the water. The light is flat, shadowless. I scan the horizon. Nothing. I tell myself it's over, whatever it was. Trick of the eye, atmospheric refraction, some phenomenon I don't have a name for. I check the log. Martinez has written, 0615, unidentified light no longer visible. That's all. No speculation, no concern. Just a note. I flip back through the pages, looking for patterns, other sightings. There's nothing unusual. We're on course, on schedule, alone. But at around 2 p.m., I see it again. This time it's broad daylight, or what passes for daylight under these clouds. The glow is visible even against the gray sky, a pale smear maybe 2 miles off the port beam. I call Voss to the bridge. He brings the binoculars, the good ones, German-made with stabilization. He looks for a long time without speaking. Then he lowers them and hands them to me. Tell me what you see. I raise the binoculars. At first, it's just the glow, fuzzy and indistinct. Then the focus sharpens, and I see the shape beneath it. It's a ship. Old, impossibly old. The hull is dark, wooden, riding low in the water. The rigging is a tangle of lines and torn canvas, and the masts are canted at wrong angles, like broken bones. The glow is coming from the deck, from lanterns or something like them, though I can't make out detail. The ship is moving, but not in the way a ship should move. It's drifting, directionless, and yet it's keeping pace with us. I lower the binoculars and realize my hands are shaking. Get a position fix, Voss says. His voice is tight. And check the charts, see if there's any record of wrecks in this area. I go below and pull up the nautical database. There are dozens of wrecks marked in the North Atlantic, but none near our current position. The seafloor here is flat, featureless, no reefs or shallows to snag a hull. I report back. Voss is still watching through the binoculars. It's not on the radar, he says. It's not on AIS, but it's out there. We alter course 5 degrees to starboard, putting distance between us and the shape. The glow fades as we move away, swallowed by the gray. Voss logs the sighting, calls it derelict vessel origin unknown, and reports it to the Coast Guard on the radio. They take the coordinates and say they'll investigate. The transmission crackles and fades. I wonder if they believe him. The rest of the day passes in a strange haze. I go through the motions, check the deck, log the weather, eat a meal I don't taste, but my mind is elsewhere. I keep thinking about the ship, the way it moved, the wrongness of it. At dinner, Jenkins asks if we're changing course for home. I tell him no, and he looks disappointed. Thought maybe we'd seen a ghost, he says, grinning. I don't smile back. That night, I have the watch again, midnight to 6. The sea is rougher now, swells running 8 feet, and the Meridian pitches through them with a heavy roll. I stand at the helm while Martinez takes a break, my hands on the wheel even though the autopilot is engaged. I need to feel the ship, the way it responds to the water. The radar screen is clear. The AIS is empty. I tell myself that's good. The thing is gone. We're alone. At 02:30, the lights flicker. Just for a second, a brownout that dims the deck floods and makes the instruments blink. Then they come back. I check the breaker panel. Everything reads normal. I call down to the engine room, and the chief engineer says there's no problem, no load spike, nothing unusual. I thank him and hang up. My palms are sweating. At 03, I see the glow again. It's off the starboard quarter now, behind us, and it's much closer than before. I can make out the silhouette of the masts, the ragged sails hanging like shredded skin. I grab the radio and call Voss. He's on the bridge in under a minute, barefoot, pulling on his jacket. He looks at the glow and says nothing. We stand side by side, watching. The ship is gaining on us. That shouldn't be possible. We're making 15 knots, and the thing has no visible means of propulsion. Full ahead, Voss says. I disengage the autopilot and push the throttle forward. The engine note rises, a deeper thrum that I feel in my chest. The Meridian surges, bow lifting, and the gap widens, but not enough. The glow stays with us, a pale smear in the dark, and I realize with a sick lurch that it's not following, it's hurting us, pushing us west, away from our course, toward deeper water. What the hell is that? Martinez says from the doorway. His voice is high, thin. Voss tells him to shut up and get on the radio. Martinez fumbles with the handset, calls the Coast Guard, gives our position, says we're being pursued by an unknown vessel. The response is garbled, static choked, and then the radio cuts out entirely. Martinez tries again. Dead air. The glow is close enough now that I can see detail. The hull is encrusted with barnacles and weed, rotted in places to show the ribs beneath. The deck is empty, or seems to be. There's movement in the shadows, shapes that might be human or might be something else. The lanterns are swinging, casting wild arcs of light that make the rigging writhe. And there's a smell now, faint but growing stronger. Salt and decay, wood rot and something underneath, something ancient and foul. Voss grabs the binoculars and looks for a long time. When he lowers them, his face is bloodless. "There's no one at the helm," he says. I don't want to look, but I do. I raise the binoculars and focus on the quarterdeck. The wheel is there, massive and old, and it's turning on its own, spokes spinning as if worked by invisible hands. The deck behind it is a wreck, planks torn up, ropes coiled in tangles, and in the center, a hatch standing open. The glow is coming from inside, from below. I try to see deeper, to make out what's down there, but the light is too bright, too diffuse. It's like staring into a fog lap. My eyes water. And then I see the figurehead. It's mounted on the bow, a carved woman with her arms outstretched and her face turned towards us. The wood is black with age, split and wormed, but the features are still visible. Her eyes are holes. Her mouth is open, and in the magnified view I can see that her teeth are nails, iron nails driven into the wood, dozens of them, so that her scream is a mouthful of rust. I lower the binoculars and step back from the window. My stomach churns. "We need to turn around," Martinez says. Voss shakes his head. "We can't. It's blocking us." He's right. The glow has spread, wider now, flanking us on 3 sides. If we turn, we'll run straight into it. "So we go through," I say. My voice sounds far away. Voss looks at me, and for a moment I think he'll agree. Then he shakes his head again. "No, we hold course. We wait for daylight." We hold course. The glow stays with us, pacing us, close enough now that I can hear it, a low groan, rhythmic like the creak of old wood under strain. It's not the wind. The wind is behind us. It's coming from the ship itself, from the hull and the masts and the rigging, a sound that rises and falls like breathing. I close my eyes and count my heartbeat. 110. Too fast. I force myself to breathe slowly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. It doesn't help. At 0400, something hits the hull. A dull thud, low on the waterline that shudders through the deck. We all freeze. "What was that?" Martinez whispers. No one answers. Another thud, this time on the starboard side, then another. They're rhythmic, deliberate, like something is striking the hull from below. I go to the rail and look down. The water is black, impenetrable, but I see ripples, disturbances spreading out from the ship. Something is down there. Something large. The thuds continue, a slow drumbeat that matches the groan of the ghost ship. I grip the rail and lean out, straining to see. A shape breaks the surface, pale and slick, gone before I can register detail. Then another, farther aft. They're circling us. I shout for Voss, but he's already there, shining a spotlight down. The beam catches something, an arm or what might be an arm, long and jointless, trailing ribbons of weed. It slides back under before the light can follow. Voss turns off the spotlight. "Don't look," he says. "Just don't look." But I can't stop. I move along the rail, following the sounds, and at the stern I see one clearly. It's clinging to the rudder, a figure so pale it glows in the dark. The head is wrong, elongated, and the face is a mass of barnacles and empty sockets. It turns toward me, and I see the mouth open, see the water pour out, black and thick. Then it drops away, back into the deep, and the thudding stops. The silence is worse. I stand at the rail, shaking, and wait for the sound to come back. It doesn't. The glow begins to fade. By the time the sky lightens at 5:30, the ghost ship is gone, and the sea is empty again. Voss logs the encounter, pursued by unknown vessel, possible hallucination due to crew fatigue, and orders double watches for the next 72 hours. No one argues. No one sleeps. We reach Halifax 2 days later, offload the cargo, and sit in port for a week while Voss argues with the company about what to report. In the end, he submits the log as written, and the company chalks it up to stress. They offer counseling. Martinez quits. I think about quitting too, but I don't. I call Emma and tell her I'm fine. She asks when I'm coming home, and I say, next month, maybe. She's quiet on the line. I tell her I love her. She says it back, but her voice is hollow. Before we leave port, I go to the Maritime Library and search the archives. I'm looking for records of ships lost in the North Atlantic, specifically old ones, sailing vessels from the age of canvas and wood. There are hundreds. I narrow it down by location, by the approximate coordinates where we saw the glow. One name keeps appearing: the Geest, a Dutch merchant ship that vanished in 1679 during a storm. No wreckage was ever found. The reports describe her as cursed, doomed by her captain's refusal to turn back when the crew begged him to. They say she still sails, crewed by the dead, searching for a harbor she'll never reach. I print the pages and take them back to the ship. I don't show them to Voss. I fold them into my duffel and leave them there, unread, until we're at sea again. Then, on the 4th night out of Halifax, I unfold them and read by the light of my bunk lamp. The details match: the figurehead, the lanterns, the way she moves without wind. I read until my eyes burn, until the words blur, and then I fold the pages again and stuff them under my mattress. I don't sleep that night, or the next. I lie in my bunk and listen to the engine, to the hull, to the water rushing past. Every sound is a threat. Every shadow is movement. I check the locks on my cabin door. There are none. I jam a chair under the handle. It doesn't help. On the 6th night, I see the glow again. It's distant, just a flicker on the horizon, but it's there. I don't tell anyone. I stand on the deck and watch until it fades, and then I go below and write a letter to Emma. I tell her I'm coming home. I tell her I'm done. I seal the envelope and put it in my locker, but I don't mail it. I can't. I don't know how to explain. I don't know what to say. The rest of the voyage is uneventful. We make port in Antwerp, offload, reload, and head back across the Atlantic. The weather is calm, the sea is empty. I do my watch, check the deck, log the readings. Everything is normal, but I can't shake the feeling that we're being followed, that just beyond the horizon, something is keeping pace. I check the radar obsessively. I scan the water with the binoculars until my eyes ache. I see nothing, but I know it's out there. I know it's waiting, and I know with a certainty that sits cold in my gut that one night I'll see that glow again, closer than before, and this time it won't fade. This time it won't let us go. I've started keeping a knife in my belt, a folding blade I bought in port. I don't know what I think it will do. I don't know what I think I'm protecting myself from, but I keep it close. I've hauled up a lot of strange things in 6 years of night fishing. Sharks with bellies full of plastic, sunfish the size of compact cars, once a piece of fuselage with Japanese writing still visible on the metal. But I've never pulled up something that made the entire crew go silent. I've been working the night shift on commercial trawlers for 6 years now, long enough that the rhythm of the boat has replaced any rhythm I used to keep on land. I'm 28. My girlfriend, Emma, lives in a studio apartment in Astoria, while I spend 3 weeks at a time on the Kittiwake, a mid-sized longliner working the continental shelf 200 miles off the Oregon coast. The work is methodical. Set the lines at dusk, haul them before dawn, process the catch, sleep in 4-hour blocks. Repeat. The crew's 5, including me. Captain Renner, who's been running boats for 30 years, Hal, our deck boss, Marcus, who handles the winch, and Jimmy, who's new and still gets seasick when the swells run high. The boat is 80 feet, steel-hulled, with the wheelhouse amidships and the quarters below. A galley with a bolted-down table, a narrow head, and 4 bunks in 2 stacked pairs. My bunk is upper starboard. The porthole above it doesn't seal completely, so there's always a faint whistle of wind and a smell of salt and diesel that seeps through the rubber gasket. The engine runs constantly, a low thrumming that you stop hearing after the first day, but feel in your sternum. We keep the radio on in the galley. Weather, traffic, sometimes static-laced music from a station in Coos Bay that fades in and out. It's late September. The water is still relatively warm, but the air is turned and the wind has teeth now. We're working a new zone, deeper than usual, following a temperature break that Renner thinks will pull in albacore. The sonar shows the bottom at 900 feet. We set the lines just after sunset, 20 miles of monofilament with baited hooks every few fathoms, and then we wait.
The sky is overcast, no moon, and the darkness on the ocean is total. The only light comes from the deck floods and the green glow of the instruments in the wheelhouse. I'm below in the galley around 11, heating water for instant coffee, when I hear Howe's voice crackle over the intercom. "We got something on the line. Big. Renner wants everyone on deck."
It's not unusual to snag something heavy. Sometimes it's a shark, sometimes a sunfish, once a piece of debris that turned out to be part of a shipping container. But there's a tightness in Howe's voice that makes me move faster. I pull on my waterproof jacket and gloves and climb the ladder to the deck. The wind hits me immediately, cold and damp, carrying the smell of brine and something else, something faintly organic and unfamiliar, like the inside of a fish market, but sweeter. Marcus is at the winch, hauling the line slowly. The hydraulics groan. Renner stands near the rail with a spotlight, scanning the water. Howe and Jimmy are on the opposite side, watching the line angle down into the black. I take my position near the stern and wait. The boat rocks gently, the swells deep and slow. "It's not fighting," Marcus says. "Just wait." The line comes up for another 2 minutes. The smell gets stronger, more concentrated, rot and brine and something almost floral. Then I see it. At first I think it's a ribbon of silver fabric caught on the line, undulating in the current. But as Marcus pulls it higher, I realize it's a body. Long, impossibly long, at least 25 feet of it visible and more still submerged. The skin is chrome bright, reflective, covered in a pattern of faint vertical lines. It has no scales, just smooth, wet muscle that catches the light and throws it back in rippling sheets. The head breaks the surface, small, blunt, with a circular mouth and wide, lidless eyes that are clouded white. There's a crest running along the top of the skull, a red fringe of cartilage that looks like a mane. "Oarfish," Renner says quietly. "I've seen pictures. I know what they are. Deep-sea fish, rarely seen, usually dead when they wash ashore. But the pictures didn't prepare me for the physical presence of it, the sheer alien length of the thing, the way its body moves even though it's clearly dead, pulled by the current and the motion of the boat." "Cut it loose," Renner says. Marcus reaches for the knife on his belt, but before he can move, the fish's body shifts. Not from the current, from inside. There's a bulge near the midsection, something pressing outward against the skin, and then a split, long and clean, like the fish is unzipping, and a gush of fluid and internal matter spills into the water. The smell intensifies, thick enough to coat the back of my throat. I gag and step back. "Jesus," Jimmy says and turns away. The crest on the fish's head flutters once, a slow, deliberate motion, and then it goes still. Marcus cuts the line, and the body slips back into the water, sinking without resistance. The deck is silent, except for the engine and the wind. Renner kills the spotlight. "Back to it. We've got 12 more hours on this set." We don't talk about it. That's the rule on boats. Weird shit happens, you process it internally, you move on. But I can't stop smelling it, even after I go below and wash my hands and face. The sweetness clings to my jacket and my hair. I strip down to my thermals and climb into my bunk. The engine hums, the porthole whistles. I close my eyes and see the white eyes of the fish, the way the crest moved even after everything else had stopped. The next night, I'm on watch in the wheelhouse from midnight to 4. It's just me and the instruments, the GPS, the sonar, the radio murmuring low. Renner is in his cabin. The others are asleep. The ocean is calm, the swells barely noticeable. I drink coffee and watch the radar screen, a slowly rotating arm painting green blips of nothing. At 1:30, the sonar flickers. The bottom reading jumps from 900 feet to 300, then back to 900. I tap the screen. It happens again. 300, then deeper, then shallow. It's not a malfunction. It's something rising. I pick up the intercom, but before I can call Renner, the sonar stabilizes. The bottom reads 900 feet, no movement. I wait, watching, but nothing changes. I don't call it in. There's no point disturbing everyone for a glitch, but I keep watching.
At 2:15, I hear it. A sound, low and resonant, coming through the hull. It's not the engine. It's deeper, slower, like a tone played on an enormous instrument. It lasts for 5 seconds, then stops. I hold my breath and listen. The sound comes again, slightly higher in pitch, and then a third time, lower. It's rhythmic, intentional. I go to the port side door and step out onto the deck. The air is colder than it should be, and there's no wind. The water is glassy, black, reflecting nothing. I scan the surface with my flashlight, but there's only flat darkness. The sound comes again, vibrating through the deck plating and into my boots. I feel it in my chest, in my jaw. I go back inside and check the sonar. Still normal. I pick up the radio handset and switch to the emergency band, listening for other boats, for anything. Static. I switch back and sit down, hands shaking slightly, though I'm not cold. The sound doesn't come again. At 4, Howe relieves me. I don't mention it. I go below and lie in my bunk, staring at the ceiling. The engine hums. The porthole whistles. I don't sleep.
The third night, we pull the lines early. The catch is weak, mostly dogfish and a few small halibut, nothing worth the fuel. Renner decides to move north, closer to the shelf break, and reset tomorrow. We secure the gear and motor through the night, the boat cutting a white line through the dark water. I'm in the galley with Marcus and Jimmy playing cards when the lights go out. Not flickering, just gone. The engine is still running, but every electrical system drops. Lights, instruments, radio. The darkness is absolute. "Breaker," Marcus says, already moving toward the engine room. I grab a flashlight from the rack and follow him down the ladder. The beam cuts through the cramped space, illuminating the engine block, the fuel lines, the electrical panel. Marcus opens the panel and checks the breakers. They're all in the correct position. "That's not it," he says. The lights come back on, all at once. The galley floods with fluorescent white, and I hear the radio crackle back to life above us. Marcus and I look at each other. He closes the panel. "Salt in a connection somewhere," he says, though he doesn't sound convinced. We climb back up. Jimmy is standing in the galley looking out the porthole. "Did you see that?" he asks. "What?" "The water. It was glowing." I go to the porthole and look out. The ocean is black and still, no glow, no light except our own deck floods reflecting off the surface. "Bioluminescence," Marcus says. "Plankton." Jimmy shakes his head slowly but doesn't argue. We go back to the cards, but no one is paying attention. I keep glancing at the porthole. The glass is fogged on the inside, and I can see my own face reflected, pale and distorted. At midnight, I'm in my bunk when I hear footsteps on the deck above me, slow, deliberate. I know the sound of each crew member's walk, Renner's heavy shuffle, Howe's quick stride, Marcus's limping gait from an old knee injury. These steps don't match. They're too light, too evenly spaced. I wait, listening. The steps move from stern to bow, then stop. I hear the creak of the forward hatch opening. I climb up the ladder as quietly as I can and step out onto the deck. The hatch is open. I didn't imagine it. I shine my flashlight down into the hold, ropes, nets, spare gear, all in place. No one inside. I close the hatch and scan the deck. Empty. The wheelhouse is dark. Whoever's on watch is inside. I walk toward the bow, my light cutting through the fog that's settled low over the water. I reach the rail and stop. There's something in the water just off the starboard side, long and pale, floating just below the surface. At first I think it's the oarfish again, another one, but the shape is wrong. It's thicker, and it's moving toward the boat. I lean over the rail, my light trained on it. The water's murky, but I can make out the form. Cylindrical, segmented, at least 30 feet long. It's not swimming, it's drifting, propelled by something I can't see. The front end rises slightly, breaking the surface, and I see an opening. Not a mouth, a cavity, dark and wide, fringed with something that looks like bone or cartilage. I stumble back from the rail.
my breath loud in my ears. The shape sinks slowly and vanishes into the black. I stand there, shaking, the flashlight beam trembling against the deck. When I finally move, I go straight to the wheelhouse. Howe is on watch, sitting in the captain's chair with a thermos of tea. He looks up when I come in. "You okay?" he asks. I open my mouth, but I don't know how to say it. I don't know what I saw. "Thought I heard something," I say finally. He nods. "Boat makes noise, you know that?" I do. I've been on this boat long enough to know every sound it makes. This wasn't one of them. I go back below and lie in my bunk, fully dressed. The porthole whistles. I don't close my eyes. The next morning, Renner gathers us in the galley. He looks tired, older than usual. "We're heading in," he says, "cutting the trip short." "Why?" Marcus asks. "Engine's acting up. I don't want to risk it this far out." It's a lie. I can hear it in his voice. The engine is fine, but no one argues. We secure the gear and turn east, toward the coast. The trip back takes 18 hours. I stay on deck as much as I can, avoiding the close quarters below, watching the water. It stays dark and calm, no movement, no shapes. We dock in Newport at dawn. Renner pays us out and tells us he'll call when the next trip is scheduled. I take my duffel and walk down the pier, my legs unsteady on the solid ground. The smell of the oarfish is gone, but I can still taste it faintly at the back of my throat. I drive to Astoria and let myself into Emma's apartment. She's at work. I shower, scrubbing my skin until it's raw, and then I sit on the couch and stare at the wall. My phone buzzes. A text from Jimmy. "You feel it too, right?" I don't respond. That night, I try to sleep, but every time I close my eyes, I see the fish, the white eyes, the red crest, the thing in the water with the dark cavity. I get up and search online. Oarfish sightings, deep-sea creatures, bioluminescence, electromagnetic anomalies. I find references to the Japanese folklore, oarfish as harbingers, rising before earthquakes. I find reports of sightings off California, off Japan, off Chile, all in the weeks before major seismic events. I check the USGS earthquake map. There's been a small tremor off the coast, 4.2 magnitude, 2 days ago. Nothing unusual for the region. I keep searching. I lose track of time. Emma comes home and finds me at the table, laptop open, surrounded by printouts and notes. "What are you doing?" she asks. "Research," I say. She sits down across from me. "You look awful. When's the last time you ate?" I don't remember. She makes me a sandwich, and I eat it without tasting it. She asks about the trip. I tell her it was fine, routine. I don't mention the fish, or the sound, or the shape in the water. She wouldn't understand. I'm not sure I understand.
5 days later, I'm back in the apartment alone when my phone rings. It's Renner. "You see the news?" he asks. "No. 8.1 off the coast. Happened an hour ago." I pull up the news on my laptop. A major earthquake, epicenter 200 miles offshore, nearly the exact coordinates where we'd been fishing. No tsunami warning yet, but they're monitoring. I feel my stomach drop. "You still there?" Renner asks. "Yeah. I'm not going back out there," he says. "Not for a while. I've been doing this long enough to know when something's wrong." He hangs up. I sit at the table and stare at the screen. The quake was deep, over 20 miles down. No significant damage reported yet, but I keep thinking about the oarfish, the way its body split open, the sound through the hull, the shape in the water. I think about the sonar readings, the lights going out, the footsteps I heard. Emma notices. She asks if I'm okay, if something happened on the boat. I tell her I'm fine, just tired. She doesn't believe me, but she doesn't push. I can feel the distance growing between us, a space I don't know how to close. I start having a dream that I'm back on the Kittiwake, alone, in the middle of the night. The deck is wet, and there's a sound coming from below, rhythmic, resonant, the same tone I heard through the hull.
I go down the ladder into the hold, and the oarfish is there, coiled in the corner, its white eyes watching me. The crest on its head is moving, fluttering, and I realize it's not a crest, it's something else. It's opening. I wake up in a sweat, my heart hammering. The apartment is silent. Emma is asleep beside me. I get up and go to the window, looking out at the street, the parked cars, the streetlights casting pools of yellow on the pavement. Everything is normal, solid, real. But I know, somewhere deep and certain, that it's not over. The fish was a signal. The sound was a call. The shape in the water was a response. And whatever is down there, in the cold and the dark, it's still waiting. I don't go back on the boat. I tell Renner I'm done, and he doesn't ask why. I get a job at a warehouse, day shift, inland. I avoid the coast. I avoid the news when they talk about seismic activity. I try to build a routine, a new rhythm, something that doesn't involve the ocean. But at night, when the apartment is quiet and Emma is asleep, I still hear it. The low, resonant tone, the sound of something vast and patient calling from the deep. And I know, no matter how far inland I go, I'll never be far enough.
The captain is lying in his incident report, and I don't blame him. You can't write unknown entities stalking crew through ventilation system on a maritime safety form. You can't log sounds of something large moving inside sealed cargo holds. So he writes possible contamination event and crew fatigue. And we all nod and sign our names and pretend the wet handprints on the bulkhead are condensation. I've been sailing the Indian Ocean for 11 years, and I know the rhythm of this ship the way I know my own pulse. The Malabar Dawn is a mid-sized cargo freighter, 180 meters stem to stern, and I'm third mate on the night watch. We run a loop between Durban and Mombasa, hugging the coast when weather permits, pushing farther out when the swells demand it. The crew's small, 18 of us total, and we've sailed together long enough that we move through our routines without needing to speak. I'm 29, unmarried. My cabin is on the port side, third deck down, directly across from the auxiliary engine room. I can hear the low thrum of machinery through the bulkhead when I sleep, a sound I've come to need. Tonight, the sea is calm, a rare thing for January. The air is thick and wet, clinging to my skin as I stand on the bridge wing, completing my O200 rounds. The moon is waxing gibbous, bright enough to turn the water silver black. I can see the wake trailing behind us, phosphorescent plankton glowing green in the churn. The ship smells like diesel and salt, and the faint, sweet rot of the bilge pumps cycling. I log the engine temperature, the heading, the sea state. Everything is exactly as it should be. I go below at 0400 after my relief arrives. The corridors are narrow and painted industrial gray, lit by caged bulbs every 3 meters. My boots echo on the metal deck. I pass the galley, dark now, smelling of old coffee and onions, and descend the ladder to my corridor. The auxiliary engine's hum grows louder. I unlock my cabin, step inside, and close the door behind me. The space is barely 2 meters wide, a bunk bolted to the wall, a fold-down desk, a porthole the size of a dinner plate. I strip off my coveralls, wash my face in the tiny steel sink, and lie down. The mattress is thin, the blanket scratchy. I close my eyes and let the engine's vibration lull me under. I wake at 1100, which is normal. Daylight slants through the porthole, hazy and white. The ship's motion has changed slightly. There's a slow, rolling quality to it now, the kind that means the wind is shifting. I dress in clean coveralls, pull on my boots, and head to the galley for breakfast. The cook has left out rice, lentils, and flatbread. I eat standing up, alone. Most of the day crew was already working, spread out across the deck in machinery spaces. I can hear the muffled clang of a wrench on steel somewhere below. After I eat, I return to my cabin to study for my second mate's exam.
I sit at the fold-down desk with my chart books and navigation tables, working through a problem set on celestial fixes. The porthole is open, and the breeze coming through smells like brine and something else, something faintly organic, almost muddy. I assume we're passing close to a river delta, maybe the Rufiji or the Tana. I don't think much of it. I work for 2 hours, then doze until 1800, when I eat again and prepare for the night watch. The pattern is the same for 3 days. We make steady progress north, the weather holding fair, the sea flat as hammered metal. The only variation is the smell. It grows stronger each night, seeping into the ventilation, pooling in the lower decks. It's not unpleasant exactly, but it's persistent. A thick green water scent, like a flooded riverbank or the inside of a fish trap. The crew starts joking about it. Someone suggests a seal died in the ballast tank. The chief engineer checks the intakes and reports nothing unusual. The smell remains. On the 4th night, I notice something else. It's 0230, and I'm completing my rounds on the main deck, checking the lashing on a container stack near the stern. The moon is almost full now, and the light is sharp enough to cast shadows. I'm crouched down, testing a turnbuckle, when I hear a sound. It's faint, rhythmic, coming from somewhere off the port quarter. Not mechanical, not the slap of water against the hull. It sounds almost like breathing, a low, wet rasp, slow and deliberate. I stand and walk to the rail, leaning out to listen. The sound stops. I wait for a full minute, scanning the water, but I see nothing except our wake and the empty, glittering expanse beyond. I log it as possible marine mammal activity and continue my rounds. The next night, I hear it again. This time, it's closer and it lasts longer. I'm on the bridge wing, and the sound seems to come from directly below, near the waterline. I shine my flashlight down, sweeping the beam along the hull. The light catches nothing but rivets and rust and the dark slide of water. But when I turn the light off, I hear it clearly, that slow, rhythmic rasp, like something large drawing air through a narrow passage. My heart kicks up. I tell myself it's a dolphin or a whale calf or the echo of the engine's exhaust port. I go inside and pour myself coffee. My hands are steady, but I notice I'm holding the mug tighter than I need to. The smell is overpowering now. It fills my cabin, the corridors, even the bridge. The captain orders the ventilation system purged, and the engineers spend half a day stripping and cleaning the intake filters. They find nothing. The smell doesn't fade. It clings to my clothes, my bedding, my skin. When I lie down to sleep, I taste it at the back of my throat, cool and brackish, like I've swallowed river water. On the 6th night, I'm woken by a sound I can't place. It's 0315, halfway through my rest period, and I'm lying on my back in the dark. The sound is above me, a faint scraping, irregular, like something dragging across the deck overhead. I know the layout of this ship. The deck above my cabin is a cargo hold access passage, rarely used during the voyage. No one should be up there at this hour. I listen. The scraping continues, moving slowly from starboard to port, then back again. It pauses, resumes. I reach for the light switch and flick it on. The scraping stops instantly. I sit up, pulling on my boots. My breathing is shallow, my chest tight. I tell myself it's cargo shifting or a loose piece of equipment. I open my cabin door and step out into the corridor. The lights are on, as always, but they seem dimmer than usual, the caged bulbs casting long shadows. The engine hum is steady. I climb the ladder to the deck above and shine my flashlight down the access passage. It's empty. The hatch to the cargo hold is secured with its usual padlock. I test it. Still locked. I walk the length of the passage, checking for anything out of place. There's nothing. But when I crouch down and run my hand along the deck, my fingers come away damp. Not oily, not like condensation, just wet, with that same green water smell, stronger now, almost choking. I wipe my hand on my coveralls and return to my cabin. I don't sleep for the rest of the night. The next evening, I'm on the bridge for the start of my watch when the captain pulls me aside. He asks if I've noticed anything unusual. I hesitate, then mention the sound I heard, the damp deck. He nods slowly. He tells me 2 other crew members have reported similar things: sounds in the night, wet footprints in places that should be dry, the persistent smell. He says he's ordered an inspection of the hull and ballast tanks at the next port. Until then, we continue as planned. He claps me on the shoulder and tells me to stay sharp. I say I will. That night, I'm standing at the helm, maintaining our course when the sound returns. This time it's not outside, it's inside the ship. I hear it through the bridge door, that slow, rhythmic rasp, deliberate and measured, coming from the corridor that leads down to the crew quarters. I freeze. My hands are locked on the wheel. The sound grows louder, closer, accompanied now by a wet, sliding quality, like something heavy being dragged across metal. I force myself to move. I step to the intercom and call the second mate who's in the chart room. He doesn't answer. I call again. Nothing. I reach for the handset to the captain's cabin, and that's when I see the door to the corridor swing open. Nothing comes through, but the smell does, a wave of it so thick I gag. And with it, the sound changes. The rasp becomes a low, guttural vibration, almost a growl, resonating through the walls. I back away from the door, my spine pressed against the console. The lights on the bridge flicker once, twice, then steady. The door remains open. The corridor beyond is dark, darker than it should be, as if the light is being swallowed. I can see movement in that darkness, something shifting, coiling, too large for the space. I don't breathe. I don't blink. And then, slowly, whatever it is withdraws. The door swings shut. The sound fades. The smell lingers. I stand there for what feels like an hour, though my watch says only 4 minutes have passed. My heart is hammering so hard I can feel it in my jaw. I pick up the handset and call the captain. This time he answers. I tell him what I saw, what I heard. He orders me to stay on the bridge and lock the door. He'll come up with the chief engineer. I do as he says. I lock the door and stand with my back to it, watching the corridor entrance, the wheel, the dark windows. My hands won't stop shaking. The captain and the chief arrive 10 minutes later. They unlock the door from the outside and step in, both carrying flashlights. The captain asks me to describe it again. I do, and as I speak, I realize how insane it sounds. But the chief is already moving to the corridor door. He opens it, shines his light down the passage. It's empty now. The lights are back on. But the deck is wet, soaked, actually, with shallow puddles reflecting the overhead bulbs. And in the center of the largest puddle, there's a shape pressed into the water, as if something very heavy had rested there. It's not a footprint. It's too large, too irregular. The edges are blurred, but I can see the impression of something coiled, segmented. The captain calls for a full muster. Every crew member is accounted for and gathered in the galley within 20 minutes. The captain asks if anyone has been in the bridge corridor tonight. No one has. He asks if anyone has seen or heard anything unusual. 3 hands go up. One of the deck hands describes waking to find his cabin door open, though he knows he locked it. Another says he saw something moving in the water off the starboard side, something large and dark, keeping pace with the ship. The cook says he found his galley flooded this morning, 2 inches of water on the floor, though there's no leak in the plumbing. The captain listens, his face unreadable. He orders all non-essential crew to remain in the galley until dawn. The engineers are sent to inspect every hatch, vent, and intake. I'm told to return to the bridge with the second mate and maintain our heading. We're 6 hours from Mombasa. We'll make port and sort this out there.
I go back to the bridge. The second mate doesn't speak to me, but I can see he's shaken too. We stand our watch in silence. The smell is still there, faint now, but unmistakable. Every 15 minutes, I check the radar, the AIS, the engine monitors. Everything is normal.
but I can't shake the feeling that something is watching us, not from the water, but from inside the ship, from the dark spaces between the bulkheads and decks. At 0500, the lights go out, not just on the bridge, everywhere. The entire ship is plunged into darkness. The engine continues to run, and the emergency lighting kicks in after a few seconds, bathing everything in dim red. The second mate grabs the radio to call the engine room, but before he can speak, we hear it again. That sound, the rasp, the low, wet growl. It's coming from below, from the very bottom of the ship, resonating up through the deck plates. And then, impossibly, we hear it from above, too, from the mast, the funnel, the air itself. It's everywhere. The second mate drops the radio. I can't move. The sound builds, layering, doubling, until it's not a sound anymore, but a physical pressure squeezing the air from my lungs. I taste copper. My vision tunnels. And then it stops. The lights come back on. The engine hums. The radio crackles with the chief engineer's voice, asking if we're all right. The second mate picks up the handset and says, yes, we're fine, but his voice is hoarse. I check the radar. We're still on course, still making way. The sun is rising, turning the eastern horizon pale orange. I can see the coastline now, low and dark, and beyond it, the lights of Mombasa. We make port at 0800. The captain orders a full inspection by the harbor authority and a marine surveyor. They spend 2 days going over every inch of the ship, hull, tanks, bilges, machinery spaces. They find nothing. No leaks, no damage, no signs of intrusion. The smell is gone. The wet patches have dried. There are no more sounds. The surveyor writes it off as a combination of fatigue, stress, and possibly contaminated ventilation. The captain accepts the report, but I see the doubt in his eyes. I spend the 2 days in port walking the docks, asking other sailors if they've heard of anything like this. Most laugh it off, but an older dockhand, a Kenyan man with white hair and scars on his forearms, pulls me aside. He asks where we were sailing. I tell him, close to the coast, between Dar es Salaam and Mombasa. He nods. He says there are old stories, older than the shipping lanes, about things that live in the deep water near the river mouths. He calls them mungwama, spirits that move between salt and fresh water, drawn to ships, to the smell of men and metal. He says they don't kill, not usually. They test, they watch, they wait. He tells me to burn sage in my cabin, to keep salt by my door, and never to sleep with my porthole open when the moon is full. I thank him. I don't tell him I don't believe in spirits. I learn more over the following weeks, piecing together fragments from books I find in Durban's port library and from conversations with other sailors who've run these waters for decades. The Mungwama is not the only name. Some call it Inkanyamba, a serpent spirit, massive and ancient, said to inhabit the deep channels where rivers meet the ocean. It's described as something between eel and snake, big enough to capsize small boats, with eyes that reflect moonlight like polished stone. The stories are inconsistent, contradictory, but they agree on one thing. It's drawn to boundaries, to thresholds, to places where one element becomes another, and it doesn't forget. I'm writing this in my cabin, 0230, halfway through my rest period. The porthole is closed. The salt is on the threshold. The engine hums. I can hear footsteps in the corridor outside, slow and deliberate, but I know the watch schedule, and no one should be walking this deck right now. I'm not going to open the door. I'm not going to call out. I'm going to sit here with my back to the wall, and I'm going to wait until the footsteps pass. They always pass, eventually. But I know they'll come back.